You're listening to The Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with Lyndia Grant.
Well, good evening, Radio 1 listeners. Thank you for tuning in to The Lyndia Grant Show. Today is Good Friday, March 29th, 2024. And I'm so happy that you've joined us. Listen to Spirit 1340 WYCB. We are the oldest gospel radio station in Washington, D.C., and the first contemporary gospel outlet in the United States. We're going to be talking to attorney Dana Stebbins in our second half of our show. But before we talk to her, we're going to go to Dr. Julianne Malvo, who is our economist, and she is an author and speaker, and we're so happy to have her on every week. So we'll go to Dr. Julianne right now. She's also past college president, past university dean, and a whole lot more. You just go to www.juliannemalvo.com for all the details. How are you today, Dr. Julianne, on this Good Friday?
I'm great. It's a wonderful Holy Week. It's always a great week for us to remember that He died so we can live. That's and right. To think about what dying means contextually. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean you die. It means some of your habits die, some of your ways die, so you can live a better way. So I always love Holy Week. I ain't the best Christian, but I ain't the worst one either. But in any case, I revel in our Christian holidays. So I'm great.
Good. Talk to us about what's going on in politics, because I've been listening to melody music all day, just relaxing and looking at mountains and flowers and horses and deers and just being peaceful. I have not had nothing just melodic in my house all day. So you got to tell me what's happening. I did hear about the bridge because my daughter called since I live in Maryland and she's in Arizona. Everybody's checking on everybody in Maryland.
Well, let's not start with the bridge, although I will talk about it. Let's start with the news from a week ago. Last Saturday, we avoided a government shutdown. We thought we were going to have a government shutdown, but little Mike Johnson was able to get some Democrat. Well, the Democrats really carried the day. That's the thing. That's really the news, is that the government was going to shut down. Marjorie Taylor Greene and her cronies wanted government to shut down. They want to make a point. They don't want to cooperate. They don't want to do legislation. They want to make a point. I wrote a column. I called it the ridiculous retiring Republicans. They're ridiculous. Many of them are retiring, and they're Republicans. But what they did was a piece of legislation, compromise, the Senate went along with it, was proposed. Nobody got everything they wanted. Isn't that the way of politics? Nobody gets everything they want. But she and a rump group of Republicans said, we're not going to vote for it. So the Democrats carried the day. So we have to give a shout-out to Hakeem Jeffries. That brother just does his thing, and he keeps his caucus in line, and they appreciate him for it. And Miss Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's threatened. Now, Congress will be out for 2 weeks for their Easter break, but she's threatened that when they come back, she wants to get rid of little Mike Johnson. Well, what does that mean?
Oh, I heard that.
Who's the winner and who's the loser? Well, the loser are the American people. There's legislation that needs to be passed. We're talking about Ukraine, Israel, and the border, and they all say they care about these things. Those things weren't fully dealt with in the legislation that kept government open. But they want to go, remember the last time we did this, it took 15 weeks. The second time, not 15 weeks, 15 votes. The second time it took several votes and weeks of caucusing. Do they want to really put the brakes on government because they can't get along? Well, it looks like, yes. So they're ridiculous. And then several of them are retiring. Now, I have a problem with people who retire in the middle of their term. You ran for office. You knew the office was 2 years. Why did you then decide you can't do the whole 2 years because you just don't like the atmosphere? What if everybody felt that way? Because you just don't like the atmosphere. It's too toxic up here. Well, why don't you do something about it? How about you stay in and you work on the toxicity? Of course, that would require some of them to call out the orange man, and they're not going to do that. So they'd rather go home with their tails between their legs. Well, I'm just calling them out. I think it's horrible. They spent money because here's the thing, Lyndia. Every time you do a special election, it costs in excess of $1 million. Depending on what state you're in, it may cost as many as $4 million. So every time you do a special election, it costs money. So when these people say they're going to resign because they just can't take it anymore, what is it that they can't take? There's six-figure salaries. There's free medical care. There's free transportation. People kissing their butts behinds from A to Z. What is it about that they can't take? No, they just don't like the rancor. Well, fix it. So anyway, we did avoid a government shutdown, but in avoiding it, they raised more questions than they answered, and we'll just wait for a couple weeks. I'll be back, and we'll talk about what happened. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, that is she's better suited for a circus than a Congress. Mm-hmm. But basically, she's going to keep making her point and getting her way. Now, we can talk about the bridge because we think this is a Maryland thing, but it's not a Maryland thing. This is a national thing. Mm-hmm. Why? First of all, 15,000 jobs are at stake. But secondly, Baltimore Port is one of the biggest ports we have, so we're talking about national, in fact, international trade. So there are economic implications to the fact that this boat ran into the bridge, or this tugboat ran into the bridge. They say it's not terrorism, it's not nefarious, that there was a power shortage and it just happened. But I say that it really raises infrastructure implications for the nation around transit and ports. A whole channel is closed, as we speak. They're trying to figure out how to redo transportation. That is an area where heavily traveled area, 35,000 cars a day. And so it's going to require major adjustments. So and we still have people missing. As of Tuesday, there's still people missing. I think 6 or 7 people are still missing. A construction crew was on the bridge when the ship hit the bridge, and all those people went into water. And when I was watching the news this morning, see, you didn't do that. When I was watching the news this morning, they were talking about what the water temperature was and the likelihood that people could only survive so many hours. I think it was 4. Well, since then, hours later, at the end of the day on Tuesday, they recovered 2 bodies, so there's estimates that it's 4 or 5 more still down there. Mm-hmm. So this is not a local tragedy; it's a national tragedy, and it's indeed perhaps international. I would give President Biden and Transportation Secretary Buttigieg high props. They rushed there immediately. They were there within hours. So good for them, and thank you to them. But this is a story that's not going to go away.
Can I just say that, Dr. Julian, Joe Biden did get the largest infrastructure budget passed, but I guess I don't even know if that had anything to do with infrastructure since it was a boat that hit it.
Well, it doesn't have anything to do with infrastructure in terms of the Biden bill. It does in terms of, we know that our bridges and roads are in bad shape. So of course, the boat hit it. What shape was this bridge in? Did it need to be reinforced? There are a bunch of questions. I've been looking at infrastructure issues for a long time from the National Society of Civil Engineers that gives our infrastructure a C-, Lyndia, a C-. It looks at our bridges. It says about 10% of our bridges could have collapsed any minute. Now, this may not have anything to do with that, but it just raises infrastructure issues.
Yes.
Especially when infrastructure is so vital, so very vital to economic commerce. So that's the point I raised.
And so then you wonder, is there another way for people on the other side to get over? Is there an alternate route?
And that's what they're trying to figure out right now. Meanwhile, people are missing work. People are missing appointments. It has been extraordinarily disruptive. Mm-hmm. So the other thing from an infrastructure perspective I think we have to look at is what are alternate routes. Right. Anything that there's always got to be, there can't just be one route somewhere. You've always got to have a plan B. I tell this to my students, always have a plan B, C, D, E, F, G, because you never know what's going to happen. So this is we will continue to watch this, as we all will in the DMV. but I think people will be watching it internationally. You've got restaurants, you've got people who are waiting for supplies. They can't get their supplies. What is this going to mean, and what's it going to mean economically?
Well, Dr. Julian, you're from San Francisco Bay Area. You remember that long, long bridge? I think it's San Mateo Bridge. It's huge. That frightened me so bad. When you come from the airport, you got to drive across.
I had that bridge.
Oh, my God. But do you know, I just learned that there is another way around. So I didn't know because I sat there when I dropped my husband off to go to the airport, and I had just moved to California. I was too scared to get back on that thing at night.
That bridge is something else. Well, when the earthquake hit in 1989, I'll never forget it, and the Bay Bridge collapsed, and people died. So the only way to get back from the East Bay to San Francisco was to take that other bridge, that San Mateo Bridge, which was scary because it was high and narrow, and you know.
And when you get out there, you can't see nothing but that little bridge and water. It's so huge.
And let me tell you, so the day after the earthquake, I'd gone to an event in Oakland, and a bunch of us ended up having to stay over because the bridge had gone down. So the next day, I was going home. About 3 people asked me for a ride because everything was down. So I said, okay. So we're high up there, Lyndia. And this young lady, I didn't know her. She said, "What if this bridge collapsed too?" I said, "Girl, I will pull over and put you out." I said,
don't make me scream on this show. Put her out the car.
I said, I can't deal with that. First of all, I'm a scary driver anyway. Anyone who knows me well knows.
And don't be talking that negative stuff while you're on the bridge.
Exactly. Anyway, that was then. That was 1989. A lot of water has passed under the bridge. Now
it reminded me of it. That's all.
Yeah, and it is, and it should. It is really, you know, it was a time. Let's just say that it was a time. Now, let's talk for a minute about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. There are 2 big stories in the national news. One is about the NAACP's president, Derek Johnson, who's told athletes that if you've been accepted to a Florida college, don't go, because Florida has abolished DEI in their colleges and overall. So people are being fired or they're being reassigned. And he said one way you can show your solidarity is just don't go. He's following the lead of Emmitt Smith, who is a former football player, who is a University of Florida alum and was a star there. And he's saying, don't go there. Don't give them your talent. People are debating it. He had a very good debate on CNN where the guy said, well, you're depriving them of scholarships. And he said, if they're that good, they can go someplace else. And I'm with him. My problem is Florida taxpayers pay for those schools. So should we not have the benefit of those schools? But I'm with him, like I told him, I'm with you 90%, but 10% of me says we're getting economically ripped off. Now, here's the point. We get economically ripped off all the time. Now, the other DEI story, 11 states, of course, have done, first of all, he made a very good point. We were on Santita Jackson's radio show, and he said, stop calling it DEI, call diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I was getting ready to say that.
He said, because when you just say DEI, it becomes like CRT, critical race theory, something that these fools can rail about without knowing what they're talking about.
Exactly.
Who can be against inclusion? Who can be against equity? Even who can be against diversity? Well, except for whack white people. But in any case, he's making a good point about Florida schools. And in the state of Arkansas, where 11 states have started passed rules regarding teaching diversity, equity, and inclusion, either no one is teaching children inclusion, but they're doing the same thing they're doing with CRT. But one of the states has now pushed back as a teacher and 2 students in Arkansas, African American and white, who are pushing back on the State Board of Education, saying that if they disallow DEI, they're cheating them. denying them of their First Amendment rights. So this is a case that I'm going to be looking at. We don't have any of these challenges in the DMV, maybe in the V, because
we do, but we can't talk about it. I can't tell you right now. It's at Johns Hopkins because we run out of time.
Yes. No, we do, and we do have a horrible case there where a sister has relieved of her duties as the head of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
And so she's been on my radio show several times. Me and her are good friends. So that's why we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
I want to get her contact information from you. Well, I got 9 more things on my list, Lyndia.
No, it's already 16 minutes. I'm so sorry.
That's because you start talking about the bridges.
I did, but it was, hey, it's my show. I can talk sometimes. I usually let you get it, all of it, but I couldn't help it.
Well, no, I always enjoy talking to you, and the bridges are relevant because we do need to think about infrastructure, and we'll talk about these other issues on my list next time, except for there'll probably be some more issues. All righty.
Well, thank you, Dr. Juliana, and happy Good Friday. Now we're going to go to our commercial break, and we will be back in a moment.
If it wasn't for my care coach at AmeriHealth, I probably wouldn't be so healthy right now. As a man, we don't get checkups or see a doctor regularly anyways. It's probably just a man thing because none of my partners go either. We know we should, but we just don't, and hope it works out.
So what changed for you?
AmeriHealth assigned me a care coach, somebody that gives one-on-one help, answer questions, explain things, and help set my appointments. She also helped me understand what having high blood pressure really means and ways to manage it so it doesn't kill me. It ain't nothing to play with. If you're a member of AmeriHealth, ask for a care coach. I'm glad I got mine.
At AmeriHealth, if you need a care coach, you can have one. Just call us at 1-877-759-6224 to get connected. 1-877-759-6224. This program is funded in part by the government of the District of Columbia Department of Healthcare Finance. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Washington and former religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Who Moved My Cheese is a book about 2 types of people, those who accept change quickly and move on, and those who hem and haw and try to figure things out. They didn't see change coming and waste valuable time trying to figure out what happened. How did this happen to me? Let's call this group procrastinators. The lesson inside the cheese story is simple. Life is change. Brother said it best when he said, if I accept you as you are, I will make you worse. However, if I treat you as though you are what you're capable of becoming, I help you become that. We must change and keep moving. The Bible tells us to seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open unto you, ask and it shall be given.
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at WashingtonInformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information.
This is Frank Smith with the African American Civil War Museum in Washington, D.C., located at 1925 Vermont Avenue Northwest on the Green Line. Did you know that a recent study found that children who visit museums do better in school and in life than children who do not? So parents, teachers, and preachers, let's get moving. I promise you, if you bring your children to the African American Civil War Museum, they will be inspired by the images that they see. They will be impressed by our living history reenactors who are always available, and they will be involved in our scavenger hunt that takes them throughout our exhibit. That's the African American Civil War Museum, 1925 Vermont Avenue. Our hours are 10 to 6:30 on weekdays, 12 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. See it. Be inspired.
And we are back from our commercial break. Thank you for tuning in to the Lyndia Grant Show. Now for our second guest. She is a regular, has started being on with us every month since the early fall of last year. Her name is Attorney Dana Brewington Stebbins, MSW Esquire, President and CEO of the Cornelius Group, the law offices of Dana Stebbins Esquire. She is an attorney with more than 25 years of experience. She provides strategic advice in community and economic development activities that accounts for and accommodates the professional, social, and cultural uniqueness of the firm's clients and their business relationships. Today, Dana Stebbins is going to continue talking about the state of democracy in America. She has been asking over these last 5-6 months, how we can save or recreate our democracy. She's going to talk to us today. There are several things she's going to discuss. And let's just start with the first thing. She said there are now several criminal and civil cases awaiting trial for Donald Trump. One has already been decided and found him guilty of fraud. Why do you think some people continue to support a criminal for president of the United States? Attorney Dana Stebbins.
Well, thank you for having me back, Lyndia.
Yes.
This is a very disturbing question, and so is the answer. Mm-hmm. I think there are mainly two reasons. I think that unfortunately the large number of people in our population who no longer read or research issues on their own. They take sound bites. They go to social media for their answers and their news. They listen to their friends. They are persuaded by things that are not necessarily factual. And so a lot of people don't actually believe that he committed any crimes or did any of the things he's being charged with, but see it as a way to keep him from being president again, because that's what he tells them. This is all about keeping him from being elected. Not that he raped a person, not that he cheated the state of New York out of money, not that he lied on the stand. None of that seems to matter to them because they truly believe that he's being set up so that he can just do it. And that's because they don't read and they don't understand the facts. That's the first reason. The second reason is the same reason that a lot of stuff happens in the United States, and it's racial. There are a number of people in this country who want to see our country again controlled by white citizens. They do not like the fact that non-white people, black, brown, and yellow people, are starting to be the majority in this country. And so because Donald Trump has promised them that he will make America great again, meaning that he will restore the power of the white citizenry over the rest of us, they're willing to support him regardless of what he's done.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I believe that. Definitely. When he talks about make America great again, is that gone with the wind syndrome? All
yep.
right. So the second question, Attorney Stebbins, do you believe the systemic racism in this country has anything to do with the way people vote? And you just kind of answered that.
I kind of answered that, but let me just add a couple of things to it. If you don't research, if you are not educated, if you don't look at the issues, if you only care about one thing, and that is maintaining the status quo of control of wealthy whites over even poor whites and people of color, then you will vote along those lines. That is what systemic racism has bred into people, the sense that they are better than other people, that their priorities are more important, they have a sense of entitlement. And so, yes, racism has a lot to do with the way a lot of people in this country vote.
I believe that. I can tell in my getting out in the community now, things are different. I don't know if you can tell, but
yes,
you can feel a difference in the air.
Yes.
All right. And then our last question, Attorney Stebbins, finally, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, is there any hope that our democracy could survive a second term?
Now, that's a harder question because I try not to be negative when I'm talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
But he has already told us what he's going to do. He's already said it would be a dictatorship from day one. He's already told us he would get rid of the Justice Department, that he could get rid of the Civil Rights Division, that he would get rid of the Department of Housing and Community Development. He's already stated what he would do. And the only thing that would stop him would be if we had a Congress controlled by people who are willing to stop him. But so far, we have not had that in our Congress, especially in the Republican side of the Congress. People are not willing to stop him. And now that he's made over 100 appointments to the federal bench, even when we seek redress in the courts have begun to make decisions that are political. The FBI has begun to make decisions that are politically based. They're not nonpartisan. And so when they interpret the laws, or when they arrest somebody, or when they testify and say they don't want to see the FBI come to Prince George's County because there are too many black people there, which is what the FBI said, then you can tell that he started a trend where he may be able to get rid of democracy as we know it. Now, don't believe he could get rid of the Constitution, but as long as you have people who are willing to allow one person to become autocratic and dictatorial and do whatever it is he wants above what the people want, then our democracy is in trouble. So I'll sum it up to say I would hope that there are enough good people, fair-minded people, and people who care about this country, that they would rise up if he were unfortunately reelected and do all they could to stop him. But I just don't know, Lyndia. I just don't know.
Okay, well, I had not heard about FBI, even under a Democratic president, not wanting to go to parts of Maryland, Prince George's County.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That was something in the news, too?
Oh, yes. The FBI director testified, we'll have to spend another day on this, testified against the move before Congress because Prince George's County was selected as a site to relocate the FBI.
Oh,
and the FBI director testified against the move, saying he could not convince his employees to work in or move to Prince George's County.
Oh, my goodness. They want Virginia or somewhere, huh?
Well, I don't know where they want, but you see what I'm saying is that they're no longer objective, nonpartisan, and fair-minded people running these agencies, and so we would be at the mercy of them and members of the Congress who think like Donald J. Trump thinks.
And it doesn't matter who the president is right now, Democratic president, because we
Correct.
have Democrats and Republicans and the independents working in these agencies all over the country.
Yes, correct.
Mm-hmm.
But you should always believe, like my mother told me a long time ago, when a person shows you who they are, believe them. And he has shown us who he is. There's no reason to believe he will change if he gets reelected a second time.
That's right. I did hear an interview on MSNBC the other day where he was saying he would be a dictator on day one, but then he was acting like, well, that's just for one day because there's some things I want to do. But I think he's taken that further now, hasn't he?
Yes. He's also talked about eliminating term limits for the presidency so that he could be president for life. He's already talked about that, too.
Mm-hmm.
So those thoughts are very scary if you care about democracy, if you really care about this country. And if you accept that that's really what he intends to do, because I have no reason to doubt that that's what he intends to do.
All right. Well, Attorney Stebbins, you got any closing comments?
Yes, as always, I try not to leave you on a downward note. I try to inspire people. I believe that there are enough of us left who will fight for this country and do whatever it is we need to do. But most importantly, who will get out and vote to save our democracy. Vote the way you know you need to vote for the people you need to vote for, who care about you, who think about you, and who represent us and not themselves.
And I want you to tell our listeners that next month you're planning a very big show. Tell them what you think is going to happen one of the weeks in April.
I am so hoping to be able to have Michael Steele as our guest. Mm-hmm. Michael Steele represents the Lincoln Project, which is a group of Republicans who were formed to oppose Donald Trump. And I'm so hoping he's in such demand, but Lyndia, I'm so hoping that he'll be able to join us and talk to your listeners.
And he already did say he wanted to do it.
Yes, he did. We just have to work out his schedule.
There you go. I just wanted to put it out there as a teaser so the listeners can know it's coming. It's coming in April. I'm so excited about that. All right.
Okay.
Dana Stebbins, thank you so much for being my guest today. It is Good Friday, and we're going to go to our close now, but I am just so happy to have had Dr. Julia Malvo on this week and Attorney Dana Stebbins, and I hope that what she has to say every week has been so helpful to you. Let me close by saying we hope that Earl Nightingale always said, words, thoughts, and deeds have a boomerang effect. So be careful what you send out, because we do become what we think about. And Scripture says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. So think on these things from the Lyndia Grant Show. I hope you had an exciting Good Friday service and that you had a Good Friday fish fry meal that you enjoyed. I'm your host, Lyndia Grant. Until next week, good day.
Thank you for listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with your host, Lyndia Grant.